Getting good aim in Valorant requires a lot of skill and effort. However, it can be achieved easily if you put in the practice. A lot of players don't really understand how aim or mechanics really work, and that's mainly because of the misconception that everything comes down to raw aim. But the problem with that is that Valorant is a tactical FPS and not a common FPS such as Overwatch or Marvel Rivals, where raw aim is benefited more than the tactical aim that is required in a game such as Valorant. So what do I mean by this? You see, in Valorant, the way that you peek, the way that you clear angles, the way that you carry yourself as a player in the game is much more important than having raw aim. That's why a lot of you might understand when you play deathmatch, you might think to yourself that you're doing very well, but however, when you're in a competitive game, you seem like you can't shoot anybody. Well, the reasoning behind that is because maybe the enemies you're facing are better at peeking than you are. Maybe your aim in deathmatch is a lot better, your raw aim, but your enemies have better crosshair placement and they peek you a lot differently than how you peek them. Let me give you a good example of this. Let's say that you want to peek a main here. So how would you do it? A lot of players peek a main like this. A lot of players peek it like this. A lot of players might even go on the right side and peek it like this. But what if I told you all of that is kind of wrong? Now, you might be wondering, why is that? Well, you see, the first thing that you would have to be worried about is this angle right here that you can't see yet until I'm exposed to it. A lot of players immediately bring their crosshair to where the enemy could potentially peek from, but they disregard any other angles that they're exposing themselves to, which then requires you to actually use your raw aim. So let's say there's an enemy here and they have their crosshair looking dice or something, and then they just shoot you. Most likely, they're going to take you out before you take them out, and that's mainly because of their crosshair placement. So another example of this is, let's say that you are sure nobody's A main, and then how do you peek cat? You're going to slowly bring your way here, but you're not only going to hold this line, you're going to make sure that nobody walked in, okay? And then you can slowly make your way into A main, and then you peek A main, and see the way that I'm peeking, see the way that I'm like carrying myself as a player. I'm very aware and cautious of all possibilities. I would say aim is very important, okay? Don't get me wrong. However, the way that you peek and the way that you carry yourself as a player is also very crucial. It matters a lot. How fast you are when you peek, how far away you are from a wall, how you mess with your enemy's crosshair placement. All of these are very crucial to become a better player, and it's not only about the raw aim. Valorant is a very heavy decision making game. Okay, that's why not everybody can become Radiant, because being Radiant requires you to make good decisions. It's not only about mechanics. Mechanics are one huge part of it, but decision making is also very important, and decision making also comes down to your mechanics.